Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
This is your host, Alicia Debrell from Insight Media. Today's guest is Rogers Vigne. He helps current and aspiring professionals in assisting them in their personal discovery to learn and understand themselves, as well as begin drafting and executing plans for personal growth to attain a professional lifestyle that is more true to their natural abilities. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Rogers Vigne to the show. Hi, Rogers. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Alicia. How are you?
I'm doing good. All right, so I would love to just jump right into this. What made you want to become a coach?
Well, for me, I'm the oldest of 5 brothers, and coaching and mentoring and kind of setting the bar for how to operate, not just professionally, but also in dealing with other people and being a big brother became a natural thing for me over time. And I found myself doing that for their friends, my friends, co-workers, fellow students, and it became a natural progression for me.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about the type of clients that you coach.
Well, my first few clients ended up being fellow students that were looking for help with their resumes. I found myself able to create a system of creating resumes for people that reflected their skill sets and also gave the employers a good opportunity to see what type of person they were going to be getting if they hired them. So I was able to craft these narratives. I was able to draft these different types of documents that represented the skill sets of different people. And then it got to the point where I was showing people, okay, in order to do a better resume, in order to better reflect yourself, you need to do these things so we can add this. And it became a backwards evolution. It went from the resume to, okay, who are you? How can I express who it is? Okay, you don't know who that person is. Let's go through a process to try to find out who that person is professionally. Oh, okay, you don't know what you want to be professionally. Let's backtrack again and let's go through a process to try to find out who you are. So it became more of a kind of reverse evolutionary process for me. And that also determines the type of clients that I work with. My clients are people that know there's something greater for them, know that they have something in them that they want to get out. And sometimes they don't know exactly how what that is or how to go about finding out what that is. And also my clients are people that have a general sense of, okay, I want to be X, but I have no idea how to go about getting there. What are the first steps? What type of people I need to be around? What type of lifestyle do I have to be involved in order to bring that out of me and experience it at its highest levels? So my clients tend to be people that are aspiring professionals, those who are maybe in college, they are trying to find their way. Even sometimes you have high school seniors and juniors that want to find out, okay, what do I want to master in college? What skill sets fit me best? And also people that are doing career rediscovery, realignment. I've been doing this mortgage job, for example, for the last 10 years, and I hate it. Why is that? How can I go about repositioning myself so not only am I more professionally successful, but also more personally fulfilled?
So you're more of a career coach.
Yes, that's the focus of my certification. I'm a certified career coach, and also my master's degree is in organizational leadership, which focuses on the improvement of an organization based on the human element, getting people to understand their value they bring into the organization and to increase that level of value they bring by them operating in their natural skill sets.
That makes sense. So do you find that your clients have common issues that they need help with? I mean, is the high school student and the college student and the person who's just been doing the same job forever and just doesn't want to do it anymore, do they all kind of have the same hurdles to overcome?
My first question I always ask every client is, who are you? And you'll be surprised the blank look you get from the high school person, which is kind of expected when you ask them that kind of question, but you get the same blank look from somebody who's 30, 40 years old as well, who's well into their career, because we're not necessarily trained, or our educational system doesn't necessarily bring that out of you. Our education system, the way it's set up today, unfortunately, it basically creates a cog for somebody else's machine. It doesn't look at that piece and say, okay, what are you? What do you can be used the best at doing? And how can you make this machine overall better? It says, okay, we need a cog over here. We'll use you. We'll fashion you the best way we can and put you in there. And that's how our educational system is set up. So that blank look is that, okay, nobody's ever asked me who I am. People has always asked me, what can I give them? And I try to make myself fit, as opposed to I look inside first and say, okay, who I am and how can I bring out the best in me, which will bring out a natural need of the people around me. And that's how I can best fit.
In my research, when you speak about people really lacking the ability to have self-knowledge in order to have their desired results. So what do you mean by that?
Self-knowledge is, if you ask yourself a few questions, a lot of people study, again, we're taught to study other things outside of ourselves instead of ourselves. So if we don't master ourselves, like, it's one thing knowing, okay, what my favorite food is, what my favorite color is, but it's a whole nother thing knowing how do I respond in X situation? How do I respond to different personality types? What type of working environments do I thrive in, and what type bring agitation, which cause me to respond differently? It's kind of doing that again, like you just mentioned, that self knowledge. Because once you know yourself, once you know basically something that no matter how it works very well, you can take that thing, whether it be something outside of yourself or yourself, and place it into a position that can be more effective.
You also mentioned environment and how that affects people's personal growth. Can you go into a little bit more detail on that? I mean, do you mean like home environment, school environment? What do you mean by that?
Well, we kind of are a product of our environment. And when I say environment, I mean, first you have your personal environment. You have the environment of the type of people that you talk to, people you interact with the most. There's a saying, I can't remember who said it, but they said you are the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Is a person, I'm trying to remember his name, but that was something that kind of stuck with me. And I've tested the theory with several of my clients and even with myself, and found it to be relatively true. You are who you hang with, kind of, like your parents tell your kids, you're not going to go no further than the friends around you. So you have that environment. Also, you have the environment of the feed into your mind. This is something that Facebooks and the other social medias has tapped into, is that if you look at somebody's news feed on the Twitter or the Facebook, the type of music they listen to, the kind of news that they read, whether they read or not, those things feed the brain. And the brain can only work with what is being fed, just like the body can only operate what you feed it. So that's the other type of environment. And I mentioned the people first, because the people are going to generate the type of support type of environment of the things that you feed yourself, which is that environment. And then that breeds the type of environment that you're going to basically find yourself physically working in, where your working environment, your school environment, and then that. But before those environments get formed, we have the environments that we really can't control, which is the environment we grew up in. We're the result of our parents at that point. Our parents are the ones that craft our childhood environment, our home environment. But we can take control of that once we come to age, and we start choosing our friends, choosing the things we listen to, and the type of things we want to do for our career.
Okay, so now that I know what type of clients you help, tell me, how do you help them? How do you help the college student? How do you help the high school student figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life?
Well, first off, the first part of my process is, again, the self-knowledge assessment. So not necessarily an assessment, but it's a series of questions and activities. So first off, you ask them some questions like, okay, how do you see yourself? What are some words you use to describe yourself? What are some words people around you use to describe you? What type of scenarios do you find yourself being the most happy? You feel great. What other scenarios to find when you not feel so great? Who are the people you admire? What are things about those people that you actually admire? Because that tells me right there, for example, that those are things you're going to want to gravitate towards yourself. You're going to admire what you want to become. So this is not a process where you want to try to do something to produce something outside. It's kind of a definition of what do you want to become. And you can learn that just try that doing that inner, a lot of these inside questions. So we do this process of inside questions, and then we start doing some activities that tells us, okay, how is my current environment, my current values matching up against the things I just described before? So I start saying, okay, in the course of a day, how much time do you spend doing this, doing that, doing this? And then we go through the course of a day, course of a week, and maybe up to a month, depending on how much information I have. Next, we'll go through a process to say, okay, what people are you talking to? Describe the people you talk to. Then you start describing the things that you talk about. Eleanor Roosevelt had an amazing quote that I love. She said that small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, and great minds talk about ideas. So that's one of the things I use big time when I ask people, okay, when you talk to people and the people you talk to the most, what are the content or the topics of those type of conversations? Because if a person wants to become something, then they need to be able to understand what type of ideas they're feeding their mind and what type of things that they're type of people that are feeding those ideas even more so into their psyche on the subconscious level. And then once they see that, things they admire, things they want to become versus how they're living their day-to-day now, they have a decision to make. Because a lot of times, a lot of persons' values don't match what their goals are, what their actual desires are. And they have to make a decision. Are you willing to make the type of changes that is necessary in order for you to get closer to what you want to be, and let some of the other conversations or maybe even people or maybe even some lifestyle choices that you've made before will have to make some adjustments. So that's the process I like to take people through in order to help them get their self-understanding and also kind of where they are and kind of get a peek into what things they have to do to become what they need to become.
Okay, well, you kind of answered my next question, but I'd love a little bit more detail, which is how do you solve their problems and so that way they can achieve their goals? I mean, is it the same solution for each person, or is it completely outside the box? So, talk to me about that.
Well, I'm not in the business necessarily of solving problems. I'm more in the business of exposure. We perish for the lack of knowledge, and perish as in not necessarily a physical death, but the death of a dream, the death of the purpose that you are here to do, because we don't know it. I mean, that was even represented, kind of funny, it was represented in The Lion King. He forgot he was a king. He forgot he was a son of the king. He's supposed to be the ruler. He's over here eating bugs, hanging out with warthogs and meerkats, and, he's supposed to be the king. He's supposed to run this whole joint. And a lot of people don't realize that there are kings and queens and royalty of a purpose that they're here to do, and they are not in the knowledge of it. So I'm not necessarily here to solve the problem. The problem, I think, solves itself, because I think once somebody becomes self-aware and they know who they are now, it's going to create what I call this powerful magnet, because the awareness awakes the polarity of that magnet inside of you, and then you're going to find yourself naturally drawn toward things, and things will become naturally drawn towards you because now you know who you are. It's been represented in so many stories, not just funny like in The Lion King. It's represented in, for example, David in the Bible, for example. Once he was told he was king, it changed the way he operated. Moses, when he realized, you know what, I'm an Israelite, once he realized I'm an Israelite, things change. And I think that's a natural progression for anyone who has in them to become something, which I think we all are, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So again, I'm here for exposition as opposed to solving.
Okay. And how long do you typically work with your clients?
It basically depends on the client. I have and their resources, because this process, it could be free, but it's not cheap. But it could take 3 months. It could take a year. It just depends on the person, and kind of depends on how much backlog that they have to fight through, how much current environment stuff they have to kind of break through in order to get to the root cause of, not the root cause, but the root of who they are. You'd be surprised that some people have old work issues or self-esteem issues, or they don't want to see themselves as great. They don't want to see themselves as having an actual purpose. So sometimes it may take a little more exposition to kind of break through those barriers in order for them to understand, that, hey, if you didn't have a real purpose here, you wouldn't be here. That's what will make the time vary sometimes. But I would say that 3 to 6 months is a fair enough time to set the ground rules and the basis for working with a client.
Okay, great. So the coaching industry is a very competitive one, and there are many options for someone to choose from. Why would a potential client want to choose you? The coaching industry has grown a lot in the career, I guess, the career niche as far as coaches come. So why is somebody going to choose you as their career coach?
Well, I can fully relate to that lost feeling. I can fully relate to I know I'm supposed to do something great, but I have no idea how to get there and what that is. And I think that people want to work with somebody who can understand them, who's walked in their shoes before, who's not someone who's like, okay, I'm going to be a billionaire in my life, or I come from a rich family, or I got all these degrees. I spent, this first half of my life in school away from actual real world. Now I'm here to tell you what to do. That's not my background. My background is very much, yes, I went to school, but also I spent several years in between getting degrees, working in the field, working in several different areas, even working in a few different states. Travel a couple of continents also. So there's a lot of things that I know that I can relate to, a lot of experiences I can relate to that maybe probably the average coach cannot. So, and I think that my ability to be able to do that differentiates me a lot when it comes to attracting the client to want to work with me.
You talk about fears and that people suffer from that stop them from working with a coach. What are they, and how do you help them get past it?
Well, fears, unfortunately, is something that is extremely crippling. Not just crippling, fear kills. There's not a lot of good results that come from fear. Some of the fears that I've endured or have to work with my clients with when it comes to getting coaching services is the financial fear. Can I afford this? Is this something I should put money towards? Is this really going to give me what I really need? Is it going to have a good ROI? Also, the fear of actually knowing, is this going to expose something that I've been wanting to avoid, or a fear of, what? I have a good idea where this is going to go. It's going to show that I should be doing this. I know there's no way I could possibly do that. And I don't want the fear of rejection, the fear of failure, but not being able to actually follow through with the thing that I have an idea what I need to become. So to combat those major fears, one, I have to help people understand that fear kills. That's the ultimate goal of every fear. It's here to kill your dream. It's here to kill the purpose you have. It's here to destroy the fruits of what you're supposed to be here to do, and also to kill how it's supposed to positively affect the people around you, your family, your friends, your community. It's there to kill it. So you have to understand. I want them to understand exactly what fear is. Also, as far as the fear of it not giving them the ROI, I have to reflect back to, what does it mean if you don't? What happens in the example I just mentioned earlier with the whole Lion King if Simba never came home? The realm dies. What happens if Moses never showed up because he's scared? Then guess what? Most of the rest of the Old Testament never happens. That is the result of fear. So they have to understand that this isn't a nice to have. This is a life must. This is something that we're here to do. Also, as far as the financial fear, the opportunity cost is much higher than not. This is not something that's meant to break. And any coach that tries to he'll want to charge people, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they can't, and they don't make that kind of money to even begin to think about, afford that. I think that's not a very good practice at all. But there's value to it. People tend to pay for what they have value. People love iPhones, and they'll pay $300, $400, $500 for an iPhone. That can only play a couple games on and talk to people the same as 100 other phones out there. So people have to understand that this is more valuable to them than that. So that's the way I like to address those major fears, because there's nothing good that's going to come from a fear of understanding yourself better. There's nothing good to come from a fear of not taking ownership and knowing exactly who you are, what you're going to do, and what you should be doing.
Yeah, no, I actually liked what you said about as far as money. It may cost a little money up front, but you spend money on a ton of things every day that does not help you in your future. And with coaching, it's more about what is it going to cost you if you don't invest in yourself and your future.
Exactly. Because again, people spend money on what they find valuable. And that's one of the things in my process that I talk about when we go through the self-assessment. You'll find out that, wait a minute, I spend almost all of my time after work talking to this person about these people on Facebook. I thought I was only 15 minutes. Come to find out, it's 6 hours a day. Let's multiply that times a week. Let's multiply that times a month. Oh my God. How much of my life am I wasting about something that's not necessarily bringing me value? And you can take that same concept and flip it over to how much money you're spending on these things and this thing that's ultimately not really providing something for you to bring you closer to who you want to become. And that's where the exposition starts to show itself, as I mentioned earlier, and that's where people start to have to make those hard choices. Am I ready to make the changes necessary in order for me to become what I should be becoming?
Can you clear up a few myths or misconceptions that people have about hiring a coach?
Well, again, unfortunately, our educational system is kind of backwards in how they approach human capital, and how to educate the person. And that kind of sets the foundation of a lot of misconceptions people have about coaching. Even academia tends to feel that coaching is not a real thing. But every professional out there who plays a sport will tell you how critical it is to have a coach. I never really understood where you can have somebody to coach you to play basketball and make you great, or football. North American football, you had football, which is soccer everywhere else. I mean, every other major sport in the world has a coach, somebody to help fine-tune them and get them to greatness, whether it be a championship or a gold medal. But when it comes to our careers, when it comes to our education and who we're supposed to be every day, nobody should have a coach. Nobody should have someone to help walk them through the process and make sure they're getting the most out of it. If we didn't have a coach for our favorite teams out there, people would have a riot. Go find a coach. Get somebody that can tell you what to do. Flip it around. Who is coaching you? Who's helping you become great? Everyone is made to be a champion. Everyone. So the misconception with coaching not necessarily being a real thing for a profession is just kind of baffling when you look at it from that aspect.
No, I totally agree. So if you had one piece of advice for somebody that was looking to hire a career coach and what to look for to make sure that it's a good fit, what would that be? What are some traits that they should look for in a coach?
A coach should be reputable. You don't want to talk to somebody who hasn't done anything. You want to talk to somebody who has some bones in this. Someone who has some success stories, someone who has walked in similar shoes maybe as you. Because I don't think there's a one size fit all when it comes to coaching, even in career coaching. You notice I didn't say anything about trying to coach somebody like a baby boomer, or how to coach a parent, because I haven't walked the shoes of a baby boomer. I don't have any bones in that area. Neither am I a parent. So those are not areas where I know that I could be as effective. So you want to choose someone that can resonate with you and have those things that's in mind as they're helping you through your process. Also, coaching should not break the bank, but it's extremely valuable. Don't shortchange don't shortchange it because of cost. Look for results. Look for someone who has produced good results. Look for someone who you can identify with, and I can identify with you, and that you can have a good working relationship, because that's going to be the foundation of how well you guys are going to be able to work with each other.
Okay. Rogers, I have one more question, and it's probably the most important for anybody who's looking for a career change. If somebody wants to get a hold of you for your services, how would they go about doing that?
Well, that is an awesome question, and thank you so much for that. My company name is My Digital Self. There's a little bit of story behind where I got the name from. If you don't mind, I'll try to kind of stick that in here a little bit. My Digital Self, the name of my company is that because I'm a little bit of a sci-fi fan, and there's a movie out there some may have heard called The Matrix. In The Matrix, when Morpheus introduces Neo, the protagonist of the story, Morpheus being kind of the quote-unquote coach, actually, for Neo, who is the main hero. He first introduced him to the Matrix, and Neo looks at his hands, and he feels his head, and all the neural connections and everything that he will physically see and feel were gone. And he looks at Morpheus and not understanding, why is everything gone? And Morpheus said, what you're seeing and feeling is the mental projection of your digital self. So basically, he's telling Neo, you are mentally what you're projecting yourself to be. And that resonated with me huge, because I was like, so, and that's kind of a microcosm for us. We become a physical projection of what we mentally think we are. We're only limited by how much what we think we can be, what we think we can become. So, and I love that concept. So when I came to the name of my LLC, that's how I got to the name of My Digital Self. And the website is mdself.com. And you can go to my website. My email address is rogersvigne@mdself.com. And I am more than happy to have a 15-minute first-time consultation with people, just to kind of a meet and greet, and we can see how things work from there.
That's awesome. I love the story behind the name of your company. It's nice to see that there's substance behind it.
Cool. Well, I really enjoyed this process right here. This has been great. I hope that everyone out there finds someone they can work with. Hopefully me. If I can be that person for you, I'll be honored, actually, because the more people we have operating in their gifts, the more people have that's reaching towards and achieving self-fulfillment, we have a much better world, and we'll be able to lead ourselves and help other people become great too. So I really hope that, everyone takes some of the things I said to heart, and if you have questions for me, please reach out.
No, definitely. I think anybody that's either coming out of high school, college, maybe they just, don't want to do something for the last 20 years and they want to change of career, would be very privileged to work with somebody like you. You're very talented. You have a lot of heart. And I really appreciate your time today.
It's been a pleasure and an honor for me.
All right, guys, you just heard from Rogers Vigne, and this is your host, Alicia Debrell from Insight Media. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.